Let's talk about the news here because we do got to start here with the Giants news. First off, we can talk about the stare, the death stare. The death stare from Brian Daboll and asked about his job security. Well, he did not take that very well. Look at that. Look at those eyes.
No.
That is like ridiculous.
He kind of looks like a mix between the genie from Aladdin and Mr. Clean.
Now, he was asked about if he thought his job was in jeopardy. Now, I will say this. I don't know 100% positive who asked the question because a lot of times in the Giants media rooms there, they have mics on the coaches. They have nothing for the media members, so it's kind of hard to tell 100%. But what he said was, I've done this for a long time, Pat. My focus is on our football team. That makes me think it's Pat Leonard, of course, everybody's favorite Giants media guy, who I say that obviously very facetiously. He's definitely the most negative of all the media people. But at the same point, guys, I got to say, like lately, and I don't, God forbid I'm the last one to stand up for him, but
you have to.
Maybe he's not wrong like this at this point. Like he's been right a lot more than people like to admit. Oh, we're not shopping Kadarius Toney. Everybody blasted he's ridiculous. Guess what? They were shopping Kadarius Toney. So he said a lot of things negative about the team, but guys, the team's been very negative to talk about the last 12 years. We just talked about it. So, but I gotta think it's him. And guys, the death stare that Brian Daboll gave this man, like absolutely freaking ridiculous. Like you looked at him as if like he asked the most ridiculous goddamn question known to man, or you wanted to punch him in the face. Either reaction would be absolutely ridiculous.
We come from Brian Daboll. He's been fired quite a few times, so I guess he knows the vibe in the room.
Life in the NFL, the not for long. It's not just players, it's coaches too. And you can't blame them after what happened because again, the coaching in the front office is the reason we lost. I'm still saying that way. Yeah. And you can make complaints about what they did in the week one as well. I mean, I still think the offensive game plan week one, I'm not going to blame on Daboll because of the fact that, Jones played so horrible. It's hard to judge it. But, there's definitely issues. And we had 51 players on the roster last week against the Vikings. 51. It's a 53-man roster, guys. Where's your other two spots? Got to figure out a way to fill them up. To not form a whole team to go against any team is absolutely ridiculous. But the big thing he's getting hit on is obviously the Graham Gano situation. So, again, to recap, Graham Gano injured his groin late in the week. They said he was fully ready to go. He's visibly wincing, according to Dan Duggan, while he's doing the warm-ups and all. And then tries to run down a guy on a kickoff return that was already called back for a penalty, even on top of that, which adds insult to the injury, both literally and figuratively. And pulls a hamstring. And when you have a groin issue, you do tend to walk a little funky and run a little funky, and that tends to cause issues like that. So, it's not ridiculous to put the two situations together, even though they're two separate injuries, the two lower body injuries, because you're compensating. Why not have the backup kicker, of course? We go without a kicker. We lose by a field goal. We should have won that game very easily, but alas, we lose. So he's asked about the whole, Graham Gano thing. He said, we thought Graham would be okay. He got hurt chasing down a returner. It was a hamstring. He didn't hurt his groin. He hurt his hamstring. Well, yeah, guys, again, you run and walk funky when you have a groin injury, and it F's other things up, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, I hurt my back many years ago. My back's never been right ever since, basically, and I still throw it out every so often. You guys, the regulars on the show may have seen on the video portion me kind of wincing a little bit or having to get up because all of a sudden I have leg issues or something like that. It's life for me. I know you love how Charlie Horses when I got it entertains you. But
it's fantastic. So also because you're 6'7" and not like an average height. And when you stand up, everyone gets to see not an average height person.
Need multiple webcams.
Yeah.
But, when I hurt my back the very first time, my hip was all out of placement. My knees got all jacked up because they were all out of alignment and everything. That's what happens. One injury makes you compensate and makes other issues happen. And that's what's happened here. So, to me to sit there and say that, absolutely ridiculous to sit there and go, oh, well, it wasn't his groin, it was his hamstring. Like, no, you had a lower body injury. You have him out there running full speed. Like the conversation should have been had to him. Dude, do your kicks and that's it. Like, we need you for this game. Do your kicks and that's it. Don't run anybody down. I know you're going to want to. It's competitive edge. His juice is flowing. I get it. But we need you to think what's best for the team, and that's what's best for the team.
And now he's going to miss more games.
And you should have the backup kicker.
Yep.
And the backup kicker. That's the very first thing at the very least. You can call it Monday morning quarterbacking by not having that conversation. But the backup kicker, that's absolutely ridiculous not to have, guys. So he went on to say, I'm not a doctor. I mean, anyone could get injured. He was chasing the kickoff. He pulled the hamstring. I'm not making excuses. We thought he was good. All the decisions that are made are mine. And I'll give him credit at least for taking the blame. But, guys, this is the decisions that do put your job in jeopardy. Because he did the same goddamn thing.
A year ago.
Yeah, last year.
Last thing.
You could make the case he made the same goddamn mistake last week with Gano. Gano comes in with an injury. He is the returner, obviously, for the Giants. He gets injured in warmups, can't play, and they're trotting out whoever the hell they could, basically, to go ahead and do punt and kickoff returns at that point there for the rest of the game. Because they literally just didn't have a backup option when a guy was injured. And they had 51 of the 53 players dressing that week. And like I said, I'm not going to put that all on Daboll. I put on Daboll and Schoen. It's a combination of both I put it on. I think that's fair. I think that's what we got to look at there. And I'm not upset that we brought these guys back a third season. I said point blank that I was happy with Daboll overall. Team never stopped fighting last year. We went to the playoffs the year before. It's hard to make that move. But, guys, this is looking like absolute incompetence at this point.
Yeah.
That's what that's looking like. And, yeah, that's an issue. Schoen, I can deal with that. I'm not a Schoen guy. I never really have been. But Dark Sage 9117 says, I mostly blame a lot of this on ownership and their unwillingness to spend money or address the issues the Giants have. They're willing to spend money, guys. Let me tell you that point blank. They were still paying until last year for Joe Judge, still, weren't they? I think.
I believe so, but they also allocated money, and they've tried to, we've talked about this countless time. Like Schoen, he's not trying to kick the can down the road. Like, he's trying to clear up money. Like, and he's done a decent job.
Yeah.
At trying not to kick the can down the road. There's, in hindsight, there's some moves that he made that we could look at and
the quarterback
say, was it the right move? When he made the move, let's be real, Giants fans. At least 3/4 of us said this is the right move to do.
Oh yeah, and I'm not even saying the contract. Again, I'm saying the lack of any kind of,
but
test for him. Anybody has to actually win the job.
Well, yeah,
against.
That's down. But I mean, you look down the road. Like, we didn't sign Barkley, who is a stud. We all knew he's a stud when he can stay healthy, but he's not going to overpay a running back in this league where it's not a running back league. It's a throw down the field league. Let's fix a problem that every Giants fan has talked about for a decade.
Yep.
Not since Barkley's been here. A decade. Twice as long as Barkley. Let's fix this offensive line. And let's make an A-. Let's make a B+ or B running back look like he could be an A-. Like, let's be real. Like, Barkley had to overachieve to look as good as he did as a Giant. And that's because he's that kind of talent, if you will. Yeah, but so,
I don't think Barkley was a money thing either, though. Again, Barkley didn't want to play.
Yeah, we say that as well, but also at the same time, if we turn around and said, "Hey, here's $14 or $15 million for the next 2 years, guaranteed each year,"
but
he probably would have stayed.
But that's the front office. So the question here was, see, the listener was saying, I blame a lot of this on ownership and their unwillingness to spend money. I'm not, like I said, I can't think of a situation right now the ownership's not spending money on. I mean, if you want to go ahead and attack them for not getting rid of Schoen and Daboll this offseason, that's one thing. But coming off of that kind of season with all the injuries, with Daboll not losing the locker room, with him being the coach of the year prior, getting into the playoffs, I can't blame them on that. I can't think of one move that ownership specifically should have made and didn't make. And listen, there's plenty of issues in ownership. I'm not trying to be the mayor of butt kisser over here, but I don't see it there. Now, if this continues to spiral like it started to, and I'm hoping it's not. Listen, it's 0-2. This season's not over. You got 15 more games to go. I'm not trying to, be doom and gloom to that extent right now. But if this continues to spiral and the Giants don't make a move, then I can say that about ownership. That's when you can say that about ownership. Right now, I think it's too early to say that kind of thing about ownership there. But Daboll's worried about his job. That's pretty obvious here. Like you don't give that kind of desk there if you're not worried about someone putting it out there and putting that option out there. And I think that's what's going on. I really do. I think he's worried about that. But for him to sit there and stare someone down for asking that question after you've done roster mismanagement for the first 2 weeks of the year, after you're 0-2 was supposed to be your easy start to the season. Guys, we talked about it. Who didn't have them 2-0 to start the season? The Vikings weren't a great team, we thought. They have the backup quarterback. And now, granted, they beat the 49ers. We'll get into the games later on, but they did beat the 49ers. So maybe we all underestimated the Vikings. But it wasn't like they played lights out against us like there was this amazing team that was unbeatable. The Commanders game here, we should have beaten them too. I mean, it's just at some point, you can sit there and blame the coaching on it, and you can blame the front office for some of the players and personnel decisions at that point. Like, it's a legitimate thing to do. So for him to sit there and give a death stare over that, it's just childish. Manager's doing his job. And again, I hate that I'm the one having to like stick up for Pat Leonard, even though I do think he gets much more hate than he deserves. But it's like, what do you want him to do? He's going to ask the question. He's doing his job. That's a legit question.
Yeah.
You started 0-2. You looked like as a unit horrible last year. And no one's going to ask that question. Of course they're going to ask that question. That's a legitimate question, especially when you, the coach, along with the front office, made decisions that literally affected this game negatively.
Yeah.
It's a legit question. So he needs to get over himself. I feel like all the coaches and assistants you heard about, this offseason talking trash about Daboll. And, we backed Daboll all throughout the offseason, so I'm not going to try to say otherwise. We backed it 100%. Third season, got to give him a third season, got to give him a chance at that point. But, guys, I felt like that right there we saw. That was the Daboll the coaches are complaining about. Like, he's going to bully someone to not ask a question like that again. Like, that's a legitimate question. You're 0-2. You looked horrible in both games. Like, the one you had no shot in basically from start to finish. And the other one, you literally kept giving it away from mistakes because you couldn't make their offense punt one time with a bad offense with a rookie quarterback. And you couldn't get a kick because you decided to not have a backup kicker when your kicker was injured. That's on the coaching staff. Point blank.
Yeah.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please